Before I do start this video, make sure to use my TCG player affiliate down below if you're looking for any of these singles that I talk about today. Also, this channel is sponsored by Arcane Fortress. If you're looking for the best deck boxes around, make sure to use my link down below in the description to check them out. One other way you can support the channel is by becoming a patron. There are some great benefits of being a patron to the channel, such as giveaways, deck advice, and more when you do join. Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is Devin coming back at you with another video today on PubStomp MTG, and in this video today, I'm going to go over a commander that looks out for the little guy, let's be real, because of course Eldrazi, everybody thinks of big giant creatures, but nobody ever thinks of the spawns and scions. So that's why today I'm going to go over Azlask, the Swelling Scourge. I like to think of this guy more as like a manager in a big giant corporation where there's CEOs like Ulamog and Kozilek and Emrakul, and then you got little managers that are in the middle way with the scions, and that's Azlask. Enough analogies, let's read what it does. So for 3 mana, it's a 2/2 creature. Whenever it or another colorless creature you control dies, you get an experience counter. Also, paying into Wooburg mana, creatures you control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of experience counters you have. Scions and spawns you control gain Indestructible and Annihilator 1 until end of turn. So this in a general sense is pretty powerful. If you do have infinite mana some way, you could just pump up your whole entire team and win that way. Aside from that point, it is focusing on scions and spawns because of that first ability. A lot of them do sacrifice themselves to add mana to cast bigger Eldrazi. Also, we want to focus on getting as much Eldrazi, spawn, and scions on the battlefield so that we can swing away and go for a big amount of damage, because of course it does have Indestructible and Annihilator 1. Also, depending on how much experience counters we do have with our commander, this could be pretty brutal and a great win con in the command zone. So with that said, let's get right into the deck. Let's talk about some synergies and strategies you may want to follow. So the goal of the deck is pretty simple. You want to put as much spawn and scion tokens on the battlefield so that you could overwhelm your opponents and give them a bunch of Annihilator triggers. Constant way we could put a little Eldrazi on the battlefield is by using Awakening Zone and From the Beyond. I like From the Beyond a little better because you could sacrifice it, search your library for an Eldrazi card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. So it acts as a tutor. They both basically do the same thing. One makes a 0/1 and another one makes a 1/1. But each of them basically sacrifice to add a colorless mana, so in the end these are both great in the deck just to put a constant stream of spawns and scions on the battlefield. Other ways we could do so is by using the cards Sifter of Skulls, Vile Redeemer, and Propagator Drone. These are just extra ways we could put more scions and spawns on the battlefield. Sifter of Skulls is great because whenever another non-token creature you control dies, create a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creature token. Vile Redeemer is pretty good. It does have flash. When you do cast a spell, you may pay a colorless mana. If you do, create a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creature token for each non-token creature that died under your control this turn. Unfortunately, it does count non-creature token, but this could be a great way if somebody has a board wipe. We could flash this in response. If we have 3 or 4 creatures that died that turn that are non-tokens, we can make just spawn tokens on the battlefield. And with Propagator Drone, it's just a way where we could just pay 3 and a green. If we have open mana lying around, we could just make more spawn tokens on the battlefield, and plus creature tokens you control have evolved too. So whenever we're casting a big creature, all our little guys do get buffed up as well. I do also want to focus on a card that's going to be extremely good in our deck. That's Kozilek's Command. So for X and 2 colorless, it's a Kindred Instant Eldrazi. It does have 4 different modes, and you could choose 2 different options. The first option does read, target player creates X/0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature tokens. The second mode does read, target player scries X, then draws a card. The third mode does read, exile target creature with mana value X or less. And the last mode does read, exile up to X target cards from a graveyard. So in essence, it's making spawn tokens for your ramp. It also gives you card draw. Not really card draw, it's really just scrying then giving you a card. It also does act as removal either on board or in the graveyard. To be quite honest, this is just a very good command. It has everything you want in a card where it does provide you multiple instances of versatility. So let's move on from a command and let's talk about a Confluence, because it looks like they kind of did different colored shifted stuff. So Eldrazi Confluence is another great card that does have versatile options. You can choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. So the first mode does read, target creature gets +3, -3 until end of turn. The second mode does read, exile target non-land permanent, then return it to its owner's battlefield tapped and under its owner's control. And the third mode makes a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creature token. This is another versatile spell. I like this option to do any of these options more than once. Of course, you can make 3 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creature tokens. You could flicker 3 other targets. and you could potentially remove a big creature or a couple small creatures. And just having the versatility just to choose any of those modes in any given situation is going to be a plus for me. However, we're not done yet with versatility, Kozilek's Unsealing is another excellent card. So for 2 and a blue, it's a devoid card. Whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value 4, 5, or 6, create 2 0/1 colorless Eldrazi creature tokens with sacrifice this creature, add a colorless mana. So not just one, you're making 2 of them when you cast any of those number of spells. Also, whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value 7 or greater, you draw 3 cards. This is seriously going to be so good in our deck. It's absolutely going to be disgusting how much value we're going to get out of it. But now let's move on to a different subject. Let's talk about experience counters. We want to make sure we could buff up all our creatures with that activated ability. For example, Inexorable Tide is a great option for us whenever we're casting a spell we proliferate. So all we really have to do is sacrifice 1 Eldrazi, so that way we could just start proliferating our experience counters, because we only really need 1 experience counter to start going ham on it. Because obviously the more experience counters we do have, the more we can take advantage of our commander's ability and pump up our whole entire team. Vraska Betrayal Sting is another great option for us, mainly because of that +0 ability. You draw a card and you lose 1 life and proliferate. To be quite honest, we don't really want to be sacrificing the little guys. We want to keep them on board so that we have a big board presence, so that later on when we do swing in with our commander and swing in with everybody else, we can pump up the whole entire team and give them all Annihilator. So with Vraska, it's a great option because it gives us card draw and we can lose a life. That's not a big deal. But most importantly, we can get some proliferation triggers constantly with Vraska. The -2 ability is really just there for removal, or if we need to use one of our Scion creatures to make a colored mana, we could just turn that into a treasure. I will say we're probably not going to be ulting our commander too much, because I'd rather just proliferate more and more just to get more experience counters with our commanders. So that's not necessarily going to be great, but I mean, if we can take advantage of it and we still have Vraska on the battlefield, we could just proliferate once and have somebody lose the game. In a similar boat to Vraska, there's another card I do want to highlight, and that's Javier Sal, Infested Captain. This one kind of feels out of place, but I feel like this can be very powerful because it does have 2 different tap abilities: remove a counter from another permanent you control, populate. It does also have another tap ability, sacrifice another creature, you proliferate. That's what we really want to be using this for, is that second mode. Of course, if we do have a 1/1 counter on a Scion, we could just remove that counter and make another Scion on the battlefield by that populate ability. So this is pretty versatile. We are in the colors so that we could take advantage of this card specifically. So this is just a good engine for us. Speaking of engines, why not add the daddy of Phyrexia with Yawgmoth Thran Physician? This is going to do everything for us. You could pay 1 life, sacrifice another creature like one of our Scions, put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature and draw a card. Also, you could pay 2 black mana, discard a card, and proliferate. This is just a crazy engine. It basically acts as a sacrifice outlet. It could potentially act as removal, and you could draw a card and potentially just proliferate so that we could get more experience counters, or basically put a lot of -1/-1 counters on another target creature. And this is very nice because of course we want to be sacrificing our Scions. If we don't want to use the mana but we need some card draw, we could use Yawgmoth's ability to do so. But now I want to focus on winning the game, because of course you want to have a good amount of win cons to do so. We are making a lot of tokens and we want to swing away. Our commander is going to be the main win con of the deck, obviously. I mean, it's important that we sacrifice a lot of creatures to get a lot of experience counters, but that's what we're really trying to drive to do. If we give our creatures +X and our experience counters are like 5 or 10, we could buff them up so much and really take advantage of the game and potentially give Annihilator 1 and Indestructible to them. But we do want to make sure we have enough tokens on the battlefield where we could swing away and go for the win. That's why token doublers are essential in this deck, like Parallel Lives and Anointed Procession. And in a similar sense, Doubling Season is another great option, mainly because we might have 1/1 counters go on our creatures. The sad thing about Doubling Season though, it does not help out our situation with the experience counters, mainly because we're putting counters on permanents with Doubling Season. Experience counters are not on permanents, it's just its own thing, so unfortunately that does not work with it. Besides that point, I still think Doubling Season is worth it because of course we want to make as much tokens on the battlefield as we can so that we can swarm our opponents with spawns and Scions. But if we want to buff them up even further, we could take advantage of Eldrazi Monument. For 5 mana, creatures you control get +1/+1 and have flying and indestructible. That evasion is going to be beautiful for us. Our commander only will give Indestructible and Annihilator 1. It doesn't really give you any evasion unless you're swinging with a lot of spawns and Scions and they have Annihilator 1. If you just swing in with all of them, they'll have to sacrifice that much permanence. So I guess in a way they could eventually get evasion, but I'd like to give them a chance to get flying so that they could swing in uncontested. However, that's going to do for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and watching this video on Azlask, the Swelling Scourge. I do like this for the originality. It's not focusing on the big titans. Of course, you can make a lot of spawn to ramp into those titans, but what I like about this, it's focusing on the spawns and scions and buffing them all up so that you could swing in for victory that way. Plus, I'll give a bone to anything that gives experience counter, so I do like it for that option. But I would like to hear from you. What are your thoughts and opinions about this commander? I do think it's more of an original design than the previous commander. Also, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. With that out of the way, thank you for stopping by.